Stop tying the wrong midline loop for the job. These knots are easy to do, but they end up cinching down, crushing whatever object's inside, and after a lot of tension, they become a nightmare to get undone. Instead, with one simple change, we're going to turn one of the worst midline loop knots into one of the best midline loop knots. This doesn't cinch down on you, and no matter how hard I crank on this end, we could always get it undone. The big issue is most people intuitively tie this knot first. It's called the slip knot, and we don't really go past that and learn that one extra step because this knot works pretty well. But its huge flaw is pulling one end cinches the loop down, and under a lot of tension you get a knot in the line that's virtually impossible to undo. So here's how we fix it. It's just an overhand loop, and then taking a bite from our standing line, we go up from underneath and through. And that's all there is for the original slip knot on the left there. But for the span loop, instead of cinching it up here, we take that bottom bite and pass it up underneath through that slip loop. Just that one small change takes us from one of the worst midline loops you could tie to one of the best midline loops there is. And why? Because no matter how much tension we put on it in either direction, the structure of it doesn't let it bind up. You can always release it just by flipping it around and pushing on that collar on the backside. It's even easier to release than the legendary Alpine Butterfly knot, which I've done a couple other videos on. So again, we just fold in an overhand loop in our rope, grab a bite from our working end and pass it under, up, and through. Now with this lower bite, we again go under, up, and through that top slip loop and pull the tighten, and that's it. Now you've mastered the span loop. And no matter how much tension's on it, just flip it around, push that collar, and you could always get it undone. And here's examples of where to use it, like hanging up lights or a pot at a campsite, a grab handle to hoist or drag items, and especially in the trucker's hitch. This is probably the best midline loop you could use here because that line is going to be under a ton of tension, so you want to be able to get the midline loop out after you've done that trucker's hitch. I have a video at the end where I show how to do this. And one of the coolest ways of using it is casting your rope above a tree, go tie your midline loop and thread the other end through, and you could pull it up to the top of that tree. Now one end of your line is completely secure, so you could tie another loop and hang some items, or in a unique case, you could even build a rope ladder that you could step up and then step down and remove those midline loops, then pull the other end of your line and you get your rope completely back. It's a really fun one to try when you're out camping. Now, if you like this video and my way of teaching, you'll love this video here. I'm your friend DJ from the Bare Essentials, and thanks for stopping by.